What's going on, everybody? Yashua Suarez here with Edge Realty, and this is the Edge Realty Podcast, where we try to give you all the best tips, tricks, and all the good stuff in real estate here in our communities. Today we got a special guest. I know I always say that, but today we do always have a special guest. And the reason why is because I like to kind of go more into the backstory of what our agents really go through and the real life that happens, because everybody has a misconception whenever they see stuff on TV, on Netflix, and they see these shows about real estate agents. That's not reality. Let's be honest. Even though it's called reality TV, it's not reality. But today we have an awesome guest in the studio today. My man, Zack May from the May team here at Edge Realty. What's going on, Zack, brother?
How are you doing?
Good, brother. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. It's Monday. It's good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're getting at it. So, man, today, as we're recording this, it is, December 9th, right? Mm-hmm. December 9th. It is December 9th, 2024. We had some crazy years kind of getting in up to this point. Man, what's been your thought of like 2024 as a real estate agent?
I'm ready for it to be done.
You ready for it?
Let's just move on to the future and let's see what we're going to get to, because this one, well, I'm over this one.
There we go. Why would you say it?
It's just been a lot different. I mean, anytime you have a big change in anything, and definitely we've seen a lot of shifts in the market the past couple of years, and so you get used to one thing, which was a good thing, for agents, and then you get into a market like this where it's a lot different, a lot more learning, a lot more lumps you take a little bit, and so ready to get past that.
There you go,
brother.
to
the next phase.
Yes, sir. But you know what? You got to say that's one of probably the best things about this industry is that it is always changing. It is always something different. You got to be resilient, and you got to be able to kind of fight through the punches. And that's a big reason why we have you here today, is because you have an amazing story. You have a resilient story. You have a tough story. Not something that most people your age even have to go through. But let's start off from the beginning, man. What was it about real estate that kind of got you into it?
I was always interested I was in sales before, but I had tried to get into it. We were young, just wasn't really feasible at the moment, and so I went back and I started a new job in the same career. Laiken ended up deciding that she wanted to take it. She was very good at numbers. She really enjoyed working with people, and so she wanted to see what she could do in that. She ended up getting licensed, loved it. And, of course, most people know the backstory. She ended up flourishing. She was a great agent, very caring. A lot of people loved her, and she ended up needing help. And who better to go to than the real boss in the situation, which was me. But no, seriously, right. She ended up presenting that opportunity to me. And at the time, what I actually thought was cool is that I didn't really want to leave my job. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that I was making great money, but it was one of those careers I really did enjoy. I had a great boss that still to this day I love. He's been there through a lot. And after kind of sitting down with me, he really didn't give me an option. He pretty much told me, I'm always going to have a place there. I could always do this, but I needed to go take this chance. I needed to see what I could do on my own and do these things. And so I did it. And it was a great year. I learned a whole lot through it. She taught me so many things, made me a lot better of a person. We took a lot more risk in that aspect. And really was a big growing point in my life. I mean, it was the first time I really got out of the comfort of things, I mean, being with Laiken, she was a big get things done person, and so she took care of a lot of things for me, and so it was a big risk, really out of my comfort zone, but it made me fall in love with it. Anytime you take a risk or anything like that and you actually come out on the good side of it, I feel like that you're pretty addicted to it. So.
I mean, and it's true, man, because the biggest rewards come from the biggest risk, right? Mm-hmm. The bigger the risk, the bigger reward. I mean, but the scary thing is that the bigger the risk, the bigger the fall as well too. Right. But the fact that you guys did it at such a young age, were a lot of people always try to live by this, but not a lot of people actually implement it into their life. Is let's try young, try fast, try hard. Right. You know what I mean? And if you fail, that's fine as well too, because those are usually the times that you learn the most anyways. Mm-hmm. So exactly. Why not? So that's one thing that I always try to tell people as well too, when it comes to if they want to be a real estate agent or get into real estate in general, is man, I just wish I started earlier. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I don't know if I probably would have had the right mindset to start at when I started, but I still think that if I started earlier, I probably would have been even further than we are now.
And that's with anything. I mean, you got to get over the fear of things. I mean, the opportunity to fail is always going to fail. Kobe Bryant has a big quote, failure is not real. And I love to listen to that. I love to say that because, I mean, at the end of the day, you just keep trying. You try to get a little better each day. You try to keep going. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. You just keep going, you keep pushing, you keep just trying your best to get to the next whatever goal it is that you have. And so, I mean, the good part is that especially in real estate, but you never really hit that goal anyways. You're always going to have a new goal. You're always just going to keep leveling up. But if you let the fear stop you from even trying, you're never going to even get the chance to make a new goal. You're never going to get there anyways. And then what's really the point in that aspect?
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. And that's the one of the biggest things is trying to get people to even just put that foot forward. You know what I mean? A lot of times that is the hardest part. It is the hardest part. And I mean, that can go for us as real estate agents. That can go towards consumers as buyers and sellers. It's just taking that first step to go into that route. Now, what we do is a risk, but it's a calculated risk. You know, there are some sort of backup plans. There are some sort of, there's a lot of research that goes into the things that we do. So I think that kind of mitigates a lot of that, that fear on the front end, where it's more of an optimization. What am I trying to say? It's more of you're looking at it from more optimism whenever you're going into a situation like that, when you can see the numbers and the figures in front of you and kind of going forward. Man, so for those that don't know, your late wife, Laiken May, was a big part of the Edge Realty. She was very well loved, very well respected in the industry as well too, and she was a killer. She was a go-getter. Now unfortunately you lost her in November 22 suddenly, and tell me a little bit about let's start off from like when you first got in with when you came in to help her out is what I'm trying to say. When you came in to help her out, kind of what that dynamic was like.
Well, at first it was a lot of her just pretty much coaching me, telling me what to do and just taking care of the situation. But one of the reasons that we thought it was going to work out in general is that I had a lot more of a broad mindset whenever it came to just goals and things like that. She was very black and white as far as she handled the things that were in front of her priorities. I don't know if it's the procrastination in me or the ego mindset that thinks that everything can just be bigger, but I'm more of a dreamer in that aspect. So that was a lot more of the dynamic. Me throwing out ideas onto the wall and her telling me which one's dumb and which one's not, and then we work on them together. And so that was a lot of what it was, is her honestly running things. I mean, and we're going to get into that, but I mean, that was what she did, is that she was in charge. She ran things. We use a lot of my likeness and a lot of my personality, a lot of those aspects to our marketing advantage. But I mean, in general, like, she was the boss. She handled the behind the scenes stuff. She handled everything. She made sure we were protected, we were taken care of. And so it brought a lot of changes. And so that was a lot of what the dynamic was. She was a seasoned agent. She had been brought up by good agents. She had a lot of good influences that were in the business. So that was a lot of how it was, is especially with me being new, her coaching, her running things, which I couldn't ask for a better mentor in that aspect.
Absolutely, man. That was a great dynamic to have between the both of you, because I remember there was a video that we did where we were doing videos of spouses of real estate agents, and I think it was then when you told me that you were getting into real estate. We didn't put it onto the video just because it was early on. But when you told me that, I was like, I could see it. Yeah, I could totally see it. Absolutely, man. And especially you've already came from sales. You're from the area. You had that tenacity as well too, and that energy that was needed to be in this type of career, man. And I was super excited for you whenever you told me about that, man. So like I said, you lost Laiken in November of 22, man. And I hate to kind of go into this, but I really kind of want to go into the nitty gritty of really what you went through as far as from transitioning from before that day to after. And if it's something I think it'd be good to share with those that are out there to kind of know your story, and on top of that too, the resilience that you had to take. You know what I mean? And it's always a work in progress, but tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, it's hard to really talk about, and the reason is because there's just not any answers. And it's one of those situations that you don't really know if you've done anything right, if you were doing things right. I don't know if it's something I'll learn in the future, what I did right and what I did wrong. Most of it's kind of just winging things, especially in the scenario that I was in, where it was my career, where everything, and as I just said, like, my career was built by her. Like, I mean, she established everything. My day-to-day was established a lot by her. I was getting to the point where I was getting more in my routine. But so that's why I say that it's just kind of hard, because it's just completely rebuilding. And anytime you're rebuilding, you take a few steps forward, and then you're going to take a few steps back, a few steps forward, and a few steps back. As far as just getting through things, the answer is more cliche. I mean, it's you just lean on God. And the reason that I say that is because you don't realize, especially before you've been through something like that, you hear all the things, say goodbye, say you love your loved ones, all those things, but you don't really realize all the aspects that you're going to depend on God until everything's kind of just broken down. And that's kind of the situation that you get in, is that I don't have an answer on how I got through most things. Most of the time, it didn't even feel like I was actually doing anything. One thing I try to make it a real point to do, and I'm proud of myself for, is that I did stay in the office, especially in a job like this where it's real easy to fall into a hole, because I've said it multiple times, if I was at a different career where I had a boss that called me every single day that wasn't as compassionate, and it was like, you have to be here, it might have been a little bit, easier to get through maybe in that aspect. But at the same time, the amount of growth I had to do, because I did have to do it myself in that aspect whenever it came to my career, I'm super blessed to, and that's another thing. I mean, God puts things in front of you. You don't know who's going to be in your life and who's not. You don't really know those aspects. And I'm lucky enough to have an amazing family that stepped up, one. But then even the community stepped up. There's a lot of people that you don't expect they're going to be there. And people that I expected, of course, weren't there. But God puts the right people in your life at the right times, and the right things in your life at the right times, whether you want them or not. You deal with things just like everybody else. But through my situation is that I had somebody ask me, like, how I felt, as far as my religion and things like that in this aspect. And I didn't really think about it until then, but there's so many things to still be grateful for. Like, I was talking about it yesterday. My book's not done. At the end of the story, I feel like my story is going to be a pretty cool book.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be something that wants to be read. And so as far as just getting through everything, it's keeping those little things in mind that I'm still writing a book. She played a huge part in the entire story. And at the end of it, she's still going to play a big part of that story. Leaning on God, doing those cliche things, trying to keep my day-to-day, just be able to keep the sanity of things. Again, I don't know how I did any of it. I don't have an answer for that. But as far as what I did to do those little things, that's what it was. But it's hard to actually implement those things, because they were things that I knew before. As far as just anything that you deal with, the little steps, the motivational speakers that people listen to, all the quotes that people see and we see on Facebook and we just brush over, and all those things. You change as a person when you really have to implement those things, when they're really all that you have. And so those quotes seemed a lot bigger, a lot more real. And unfortunately, I do think that I am, unfortunately, I do think that I am somebody that does handle the struggle very well. I embrace the struggle. I'm not somebody that does well with comfort necessarily. I don't know if I'm a self-sabotager or what it is, but I like to fix things. I like it when things get broke. It's kind of whenever it was motivating. So whenever it happened, the whole mentality that I went into is that there's a lot of work that has to be done, because I was upset. All the things were there, but at the same time, like, she had big shoes that needed to be filled. And I'd be damned if I let everything be broken because of what happened. And I wasn't going to. And it's still not where she had it. But, we're taking a step forward every single day, and the future looks bright for what she created.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I get the fact of having to fill those shoes. But, it's not so much about filling those shoes, but creating another path. It has to be another path.
That's the only healthy way for it to really happen. When something traumatic like that happens, you really have to learn, and I've heard quotes about this too, but you really have to learn to strip yourself down and break yourself down. And it's the same thing with the business. It's the same way in every regards, is that it's not going to work unless you do it. You have to truly break yourself down and then rebuild yourself, because that was one thing, even just as far as a human being standpoint, I wasn't the same person. I'm not the same person now. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of feelings that come into that aspect, and something I'm still working on. But you have to really let yourself get broken down before you can actually build yourself back up. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to be healthy. You're never going to be able to get over the things that happen. And it's always going to be a battle. But again, you have to be able to build yourself into somebody that you can be proud of and somebody that you think that they can be proud of and things like that. I mean, and the big thing goes down to being proud of yourself. And that was a hard thing to do at one point. You really learn to just be proud of being able to take that step, taking whatever comes, because every day something new comes up on top of everything that you're already dealing with, you know? And so you have to learn to just be proud of not only what you do, but what you actually do get through. And I wasn't at first, and now looking back, like I'm amazed by myself. I actually brag about myself at this point just because I don't have any answer on how I got through this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back, I'm like, I don't even remember some of this stuff happening.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just, I don't think there's any type of, I don't know what you, personally, what you've gone through as far as, going through to myself. So I don't have experience in that, but I think you nailed it on the head with, like, you got to dissect yourself, basically. Mm-hmm. You got to shave back those, because you do become a new person. Mm-hmm. We've all gone through stuff, some different than others, and we've all had to, at some way, shape, or form, I think, have to do that to where we peel back those right. layers where it was the person that we were. Mm-hmm. We were this person before. Now with this changes us, and it could be negative, it could be positive as far as the change goes. But we have to rebuild it. We have to dissect ourselves, go back to the basics, and really become that new person. Mm-hmm. And becoming that new person, I mean, it's not easy. You know this more than anybody. It's not easy to have to rebuild that new person. Still, while trying to maintain some sort of balance, because you're still a father. You know what I mean? You have two beautiful kids, with you and Laiken. Mm-hmm. And to have to balance that out. And I was so glad that you had the support system around you that you had, mm-hmm. From your family and your close-knit community friends, that you were able to come up with, I don't want to say a solution, but an adaptation to the change. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it was, it's amazing to be able to see that transition. And you could have easily just said, F this all. Mm-hmm. I'm done with this. I don't want to have to deal with any of this, and gone down a really dark road. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you didn't, and the fact that, a big thing that stood out to me whenever you were going through that is, your ability to still get up and even go to the gym. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that. I know that's always been a big part of your life, but like, I think it was like, within a few days, you were back in the gym, and it almost seemed like that was, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know how he does it, but at the same time, I'm like, but maybe that's probably where he just needs to go to kind of just get some sort of normalcy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? To start off getting that normalcy, and back, even if just for a second, you know what I mean? Even just for the 30 minutes that you're in there, an hour that you're in there, the 2 hours that you probably ended up being up in there most mm-hmm. days anyways. Cause I know that's who you are, but,
a lot of it came down, truthfully, not to cut you up, but a lot of it truthfully came down, and it goes back to how I got through things and everything in general, is that you remember whenever it comes to God that there's a purpose and there's a path behind everything. One thing that I like to look at it in realistic ways, but God doesn't promise you happiness. And that's the whole aspect of it, is that I was promised a purpose, and I feel like that I have a purpose. And so even after everything happened, my mindset is that if I sabotage everything, that's doing nothing. But whatever is going on, whatever the reasoning is, I may never know what that reasoning is. But if I get up and I do the stuff I'm supposed to, whether I want to or not, whether I like to or not, no matter how much I'm hurting, I realized early on that the example was a lot bigger than me. It didn't just happen to me. And at this point, I've made the comment multiple times. I don't know if it's correct or not, but I don't even feel like I'm raising my kids. I feel like that I am setting the example every single day of how to grow as a person and do those things. And in turn, I feel like that is raising and teaching my mm-hmm, children. Mm-hmm. But it shifted my mentality away from that to not only that, but I am an example. The way that I handle things, any excuse that I make to do anything, anybody, no matter what they're going to, has that same right and that same excuse. And that may not have to be my responsibility. It's nobody's responsibility to watch me, but in that aspect, that's my responsibility as far as to God's purpose, to myself, to my children, to what Laiken's legacy was, is to try to be as strong as possible. I acknowledged everything that had happened. One big thing that I always said is that Laiken would have been confident in the fact that if we knew that this would happen, that I would have taken care of everything. Since then, I've talked to a lot of people, and that confidence isn't always there. But that is one thing, is that I'm confident that she would have said, he's somebody that would have been built for this. And I'm hopeful that that's part of the reason why she chose me to be her partner. And so that was a lot of my mindset, is that it was after, is that to her due diligence, like, I have to keep building. I can't break myself down. I have to keep pushing myself and setting goals and keep living life and keep doing these things, because that not only what she wanted, but that is what she expected me to be. She expected me to be a resilient person. We went through a lot of things in our young marriage. She leaned on me a lot, and I leaned on her a lot. And at the end of the day, as tragic as it is, it's another thing that happened that's on my plate that we have to deal with. And just like everything else, she would expect me to deal with it.
Yeah.
She'd expect me to figure out everything. She'd expect me to raise the kids. She'd expect for me to make sure everything's okay. And at the end of the day, that's what you have to do.
Man, and you did. I mean, you've been doing an immense job. You know what I mean? Just from viewing it from the outside. Again, I don't know how you do it, but I guess none of us would know until we go through an experience like that in life, and hopefully none of us have to. But you know, in some way, shape, or form, you know, we get those opportunities to where not where the tragedy happens, but the opportunity of coming up with, okay, what do I do from here? You know, and then you chose the path of that was probably harder. You chose the harder path, you know, and that, I think, is something that people kind of forget, is that even after this happens, you still have an option to make. You still have a choice to make, and that choice is on you at the end of the day, unfortunately. Yep. You know what I mean? And it sucks, not meaning that you have to go through it alone, but the option is down to you. And a lot of times that could probably be the hardest thing in the world. Yeah. You know, because you can't, nobody wants to imagine, okay, well, you know, I lost my best friend, I lost my wife, the mother of my children, I got to go on. That to me is like, yeah. What? Like, yeah. Hold up. Like that. Like just take me now. You know what I mean? Like, that's and I commend you 100% for that, man. And I know I don't want to you know, delve on this, because this isn't what defines you. You know what I mean? This doesn't define you as a person. This doesn't define you as a realtor. It doesn't define you as a man. You know. A lot of this stuff, I think that comes is the mindset that you already had. Like you said, you already were good at taking on difficult situations. You know, where do you think that comes from?
Dealing with things in life in general. Yeah. And definitely from sports. I mean, those things. I've always been big into the mental aspect of things. That's always what I've studied, the people I've always looked up to. Whenever this happened, I resorted to trying to study more Navy SEAL things. I've said that a lot of things. I came from a pretty hardcore family. I mean, honestly, everybody in my family, they've been hard workers. They've dealt with a lot. My family history has not always pretty things in it, just like everybody else's. But I mean, everybody in my family has dealt with a lot of adversity, and so I have a lot of good people in my family that have bounced back, overcame, and that was instilled in me at a very young age. And another thing I'll say is I also have a whole lot of women in my family, and I'm blessed to have really strong women in my family. And Laiken was the same way, so she fitted in very well. But I do want to brag on the women that are in my family, because they've overcame a lot, and they're very strong women. They've set that path to really become the type of person that can handle a lot of different things, just because of the stuff that they did and how they raised us and me. And even now, most of my cousins, there's 2 boys, and so I mean, most of them are still girls. Oh, dang. So it's just, the women have really stepped up. My grandma, she's one of the strongest women I could imagine. For anybody that knows my mom, she's definitely a go-getter, and she is a hardcore woman as well. My sister's the same way. And so being surrounded by that, obviously, you know, I can't be soft. And so, I mean, they'll bully you in a heartbeat. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's where a lot of that was instilled from, just seeing a lot of my influences just stand up and get through things, and want to just keep setting the better example for not just myself, but for kids and everybody else. Ever since then, I've started coaching a lot more. I've gotten into a lot of different aspects that have kept me out of a lot of trouble, and I'm making a lot of mistakes, but really just want to push that resiliency to everybody else. And I don't want anybody else to not only not go through what I've dealt with, but have that, like, for whatever they're dealing with. Because I've talked to some people, I like to say that I don't know if my situation's any worse than anybody else is dealing with because I'm the one dealing with it. I don't know how I would handle dealing with somebody else's problems. But at the end of the day, if anybody looks at what I'm going through and they think that it's this terrible thing, it is. But at the same time, we can still do the same stuff to get over it and get through whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
And that is a big thing I do think my situation was supposed to bring to light, is the fact that regardless of what's going on, you can get through it. You can get to tomorrow. We can get through it, and we can keep pushing. Because there's a lot of bad things in this world that really want to hold you down and make life so much harder than what it has to be, and probably what it should be. But at the end of the day, it's not what you're. I like to preach to my 14-year-old kids. It's not about what happens, it's about how you handle it, and that's in every situation imaginable.
Oh yeah. That's so true, man. Like going back again is it's that decision. You're making that decision of how you're going to handle what you've been faced with. And I think a lot of people get lost in that transition, and it's very easy to get lost in that transition. You know what I mean? Obviously, you don't. A lot of times, you don't have control over what your mind puts into it, but you have control over how you interpret that whenever it comes in. Let's go into, so you spoke about your mom and how and the women in your life. Now your mom is part of your team as well too. And so how did that come about, and how's that been going?
It's going great. It started off, we needed somebody. It's hard to match the mindset Laiken and I had. It truthfully is. And ironically, we found that in my mom. We had some other people that had tried, but my mom she's just a dog. I mean, she is. She gets after it. She always has. She's always been known to work multiple jobs, do whatever it takes, but she just doesn't have any interest in being content. And so Laiken and I had got to the point to where we were feeling a little bit of comfort. And so we wanted to really try to shake it up a little bit. And so we started talking with her, and we wanted somebody that was going to come in and reestablish the mindset that we had and the go-get-it mentality. And so when she came in, there was a lot of accountability, because if anybody's going to get you doing anything, typically it's going to be your mom. And so she came in, and so as far as being in the office doing those things, she really set the tone from that, especially coming from a management position where she was in the office. She had to be there a certain time. That's one luxury we don't necessarily have in real estate, is that if I'm 5 minutes late, Ruthie's not going to yell at me. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing, is that so she did have a lot more of those expectations on how to get back to that. And the same concept with her is that as far as how it's going now, it's been an up and down road just with that. At that time, she was still doing it part-time. Since then, she's decided to go on full-time. And she felt the aftermath of having to break the company down, or the business down as well. And that was kind of the same thing, is that we had to, not only did I have to take over everything for the most part, and honestly is still a pretty fresh agent, and somebody that had a coach the entire time, and now I'm completely on my own, learn how to redevelop the team aspect, learn how to train somebody and also still train myself and teach them to grow and learn. And she had to do those same things, because I was still newer too. And so it's been a big struggle to just learn the day-to-day on how we're going to do things, how we are going to work together, because where her and Laiken had a lot more of the same mindset. Again, I'm the dreamer of the group. So that we had to butt heads a few times, and we had to kind of rebuild and see exactly how we work together, go through a lot of mental battles and a lot of communication aspects, to really try to figure out our niche and how we like to work. But at this point, we're really starting to figure it out. We've taken the correct steps. We went through the fires. I feel like that we've done things the correct way. We've had a lot of resilience, which is kind of the theme to everything at this point. But we didn't panic when things weren't looking the brightest, or when we were struggling, when we didn't feel like that we had the answers for it. And so now at this point, we're starting to see a lot of the things flourish that we were hoping would flourish. We're starting to feel like we're on the right path, and we have a lot of confidence in the future and what we're doing. And so it was a lot of changes, especially for somebody that was getting ready to quit her decent job that she had a good job, and she was coming to this, and it was a huge risk for her. And so I'm very confident things are really going to work out for us. I'm very excited to have her. I really am, because she definitely keeps me in line. And I don't know if we'd be doing the things we're doing if it wasn't for her.
Man, that's amazing. That's awesome. And and it's always tricky. And we've spoken about this before on the podcast, is having that the combination of, you know, family and business in one together. And especially when it's not something where it's a business that the parent had started and then they brought the child in because it's already been established for 15, 20 years, however long. But when it's almost like the child starting the business and then bringing in the parent, it's crazy for me to even think that. And I don't know, maybe it's just because like my parents are a lot older than yours are, but it's just weird to kind of think about that type of thing. And it could end up very tricky when it comes to those situations. And dude, I mean, it's great for those that do work out when they have that ability. It's just that, you know, when you start hearing those horror stories of like not mixing family with business, it kind of puts a strain on your ability to get over that. But for those that do, I mean, by all means, like if you can make that work, and why not? Let's have the people that you love around you anyways to be part of your business. You know,
it was a struggle. I mean, that was a fun thing to get over on, not even just what our roles were in our careers, but also just the fact of her getting over the fact of I'm not just her baby boy. She can't come in and fix every single thing. She can't come over and just tell me to take over everything and do it all for me. We had to really learn that respect as far as just coworkers and peers and what we do aside from our relationship. And our relationship as mother and son definitely makes it a lot better. It makes it so much more fun. I think it makes us so much better working and doing our job to take care of people. I mean, honestly, because we both go hand in hand in that aspect. But getting over the mother-son aspect in that regards, that was definitely a big boundary, because I mean we had to set a lot of boundaries in this on how we talk to each other, what we can allow each other to do, because at the end of the day she wants to take care of me.
Yeah, of course. So she's always gonna be mine no matter what. So did you guys ever work together before that? Like was there any type of relationship like that? Like even like as a coach or anything like that? No. So that's crazy to me, man. That's so but it's again a great thing. And man, having Alicia around is an amazing thing to kind of see as well too, because there was a point in time where you saw from her going from that brand new agent to being like the very enthusiastic and very like, oh, like this started to turn for me, and like I'm getting it, it's clicking, you know. And it was cool to kind of see that as well too, just like it was for you as well also, you know what I mean? We every time I see that, and it doesn't, you know, unfortunately, in this type of industry, you don't get that with everybody. You don't get that, have that opportunity to feel that, because there are more agents that leave than actually stay in. So to see that transition of like where it clicks and they start really kind of finding their rhythm, and they start finding their own way, it's amazing to watch. And now being in for a few years, have you been able to kind of like see that in other agents as well too?
Oh yeah. Definitely. And I mean, that's one thing that I do feel like that anybody has they have a misconstrued idea about real estate, is that we're not getting paid unless we're closing. I mean, if we don't have business, then we're not getting paid. And people don't realize how serious that actually is. If you don't have a concept of how to structure your own business, how to be accountable with your time, how to market and have repeat business, how to manage money, how to have just a day-to-day. I remember the big thing is that most of my jobs is like, oh, management be easy. Everybody thinks they can be manager. You don't realize the exact day-to-day things that they do have to do. And then you go up higher than that. Whenever you start your real estate business, you're the owner and CEO. And then on top of that, you do still have somebody that is your broker, that you do have to make look good. That if you do anything dumb, then, I mean, it goes back on them. But at the same time, you're also running your own business. And so a lot of people get those two things mixed up. And so it really is cool to see somebody really embrace the lifestyle that it goes into, because at the very beginning, you still see somebody that's just kind of struggling their way through it, which is at any job. I like to tell people, anytime you start a new job, you're going to feel weird. You're not going to have the complete idea. I remember whenever it clicked for me, I remember Laiken talking about it. One day she was sitting at the kitchen and she's holding case. He's a baby. He's crying. She's washing dishes. She's on the phone with a client, and she's just spitting out answers. And she gets off the phone and she was like, I remember whenever I had to go put everything down, go to a room, lock the door, breathe for a few minutes before I made the phone call. And she's just answering the phone, going through different things. And I remember I was thinking about it just a few months ago. I was doing things and I was at a baseball practice, and I step away for a second. I'm going through everything. I was like, there was a time where I would have to go pull out my laptop, make sure I try to guess what they were going to ask me and all these things. But you really do get to that point of that consistency where you've done it, where you're confident in yourself. And so it's really cool to see somebody get to that point, because, like you said, not a lot of people get to that point. And there are a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of closings, a a lot of failures, just like with anything, that you have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is cool to see somebody whenever that light finally hits them and turns on, that's like, you can do this, you know what you're going to do. And that's whenever you really start, in my opinion, acting like an agent.
Yes. Yes, because and it's funny, I was just talking about this recently, where it's people want to know what the secret is to becoming confident and within real estate. And I'm like, man, the only thing I can tell you that really is a true answer is knowledge and experience. Knowledge and experience is the only way to do it. And how do you do that? Is to get out there. You have to be in the trenches. You have to be in the front line. You have to be out there in the office. You have to be making your calls. You have to be in front of people. You have to be talking to your spheres. All that stuff that it takes to really be known. Because, again, like you said, you are the CEO. You're the CFO. You're the CMO. You are the the community outreach.
You're the stock boy in the back.
Exactly.
That's what people don't get. You're the CEO and you're the stock guy in the back. Yes. You're sweeping the warehouse. Like, that's what you're doing.
Exactly. You have to wear all hats. You know what I mean? And if you can get to that, then eventually with that hard work and that dedication and that perseverance, you can get to the point where you can start relieving a couple of those hats off. You can start relieving the CFO. You can start relieving the CMO. You can start relieving, the stock room people. So like that type of thing is what people don't understand. I think from the front end, I think they expect it to just kind of be handed out to them, or they just have the misconception of like, oh, I know a lot of people, I'm going to go ahead and get in this game and I'm going to be able to be successful. It's not that easy. You know what I mean?
I had that arrangance.
So yeah, I mean, I think we all did, man.
Because whenever you start getting into, especially whenever you start getting into the finance aspect of it, there's just a lot of things you don't know. I mean, you can go get the answer from somebody, but just even figuring out the people that know the answers, and then everything's constantly changing everything. Because that's the big thing is you can tell somebody the answer of something in real estate one day and it's going to change. And so everything that you do in real estate, not only that, but all the other parts that's going around beside, all that constantly changes too. And there's so much to keep up in that aspect. But whenever you really just start, it's not even necessarily getting the hang of it. Because, I mean, there's going to be times, not good agents have months where they don't close houses.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so it goes to the point when you really start believing that you're an agent, you don't necessarily look at the bad things that's going to happen, or I don't have closings. You understand that you're still going to do the day-to-day, every single thing. I remember it hit me a few months ago. I was like, I got to quit worrying about right this second. And I got to start making them that in 2 or 3 months. That's whenever it's going to be consistent. That's whenever I can start doing this. But I have to do these things now for me to get to that point.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where we're getting to with it, is that there's going to be months you don't close things. You can't just throw everything out the window. And you have to keep doing, you got to keep the day-to-day, and you got to understand that you are an agent. And that was a big thing, truthfully. Even whenever I first started having to do everything on my own, I doubted myself. I would sit here and I would talk to other people. I would talk to clients. I would talk to Jim. I would talk to my broker. I would talk to people in general. And it was just like, never felt the confidence that I was actually supposed to be an agent. And then you get to the point, I don't know if you just go through enough fires, if you put out enough fires, if you're like, what else could I possibly deal with? But you really start knowing that you're an agent. I remember Chrissy at one point, she said, everything's fixable. And I was panicking. I remember this. I was panicking. I called her freaking out, and she didn't even know what was going on at the time. And she was just like, everything's fixable. And I don't know why that just stuck with me, but it really did. Like, I felt it to my core. It's just like, it's the worst that's going to happen. Like, I got to fix it. I got to deal with it tomorrow. I got to call people. I got to understand what's going on. Somebody's mad. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you're trying to do your best, but at the end of the day, everything's fixable for the most part. And so you have to just keep breathing. You got to keep learning and growing. You're not going to grow unless you go through things anyways.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that is a big thing. It gets misconstrued in real estate a lot, but as far as that light, there's a lot of things to get to that light. But that's whenever it really does come on, whenever you've been through enough things, whenever you're confident that you can handle whatever's going to happen. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So so you've had those experiences of going through the trenches as well too yourself and having to learn the hard way. What do you feel like now is like part of your system or part of who you are that helps your clients the most? Like for your buyers, your sellers, because you work with buyers, sellers, and investors as well too.
In my mind, just keeping the go-get-it mindset. And the reason that I like to say it like that is that everything just sounds so, I don't want to sound cliche, but what it really comes to in that aspect is wanting to learn and grow. I by no means do I think I'm the best agent. Do I think I'm the best agent? I think that I'm willing to learn more than any other. I think I'm willing to do the things, work harder and all that aspect, and then another agent's going to probably say the same thing. But that's where my confidence comes from, is that there's nothing I'm not willing to learn. I don't expect myself to know the answers, but I know that I'm willing to learn anything. Maybe I haven't had the tools to learn it yet. Maybe I haven't had the person to teach me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I get questions all the time, and then whenever they ask me, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I haven't had the person that wanted to teach me. I haven't been around that aspect of it yet, and now that they've asked me that and I realize I don't know, before I'd be embarrassed. Okay, well, now I got to go find somebody that does know this. And I may have to go ask 10 people, but they have to tell me they don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If I got to ask 10 people, it means 9 of them told me they didn't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, and now we don't know. So now we got to go find the person that does. A lot of people don't want to go through those 10 people. A lot of people don't want to admit that they don't know something or that they're not good at something. And so a lot of times they never fix that aspect.
Amen. Yes.
When getting thrown to the wolves like I did, I had to learn. I had to strip my ego away and learn to admit that I just didn't know. So there was a lot of times I'd get phone calls. I'll never forget, right after, a month after everything happened, I'm still dealing with everything else, trying to figure out, and I get a call about land. I hadn't sold land. So I was like, so I had to ask everything. And luckily the clients were absolutely amazing people. But they had to go through a lot of me having to get off the phone and make the phone calls, figure these things out, writing down the questions. Because
learn as you go.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, everything went great in the deal. The other agent was awesome as well. But and that's a crazy story on its own. That's a guy from Alaska. Like, just craziness. But again, it just goes down to learning to admit that you don't know things, and not even just admit to other people, knowing yourself that you don't.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to go learn and ask the questions and figure that stuff out, because that's the only way that you're going to. But that's a hard aspect to actually get into.
Man, there's a lot of times where people kind of get into a situation. I remember I was trying to help out a new agent at one point in time, and so what I would do is I would get them to go on a call and talk to whatever it was, a first client or a current client at that moment in time, and I'm telling them, let me just talk to them and let me see what it is that you guys talk about. And now I get it; it's probably nerve-wracking to have somebody over your shoulder, like listening to your conversation while you're there. But there was a point in time where they got asked a question. They didn't know the answer. And it was obvious, at least to me, it was obvious. But they tried to make it seem as though they knew. Mm-hmm. And I was like, stop right there. You don't even you know what? So I had to stop them so that I can answer the question before they got themselves into a hole. But the reason was that they don't like to look as though they're unexperienced. They don't like to look as though, quote unquote, dumb, when it comes to the profession. And I get that. But at the same time, too, you got to be honest with your client and let them know, hey, if this is your first transaction, this is your first transaction. Yeah. But you know what? It's great. I have a whole team backing me up behind me that I can go ask questions to and I can go lean on in case we need more help. So not making it seem like you are the number one agent, not making it seem like you're the know-it-all, especially when you're brand new. Got to get over that ego. That ego's got to get out of the door. Mm-hmm. And I think that will help you grow, because then you can keep that same type of mentality growing later on, because then you're going to be always be the student. You're always going to have that student mentality where you're going to want to learn more. And on top of that, then you can go ahead and invest into yourself and educate yourself even more through outside sources. So why not keep that student mentality, especially in an industry that's always evolving, that's always changing and never staying the same. One of the best things that I love about this industry, you know what I mean? Yeah. That goes with like the marketing side of things with that I love to do, and also the real estate side of things that I love to do, because there's never technology is always changing on the marketing side, and that's where I lean more towards is the digital marketing side. And then on the real estate side, we already know that's always going to be changing. There's new rules that come in every single year. There's new laws that come in every single year. There's new opportunities that come in every single year. So why not just keep growing with it? And then you can, in 10, 15 years, if we're still in this game, we can look back and be like, man, when I was doing it, when I first kind of came in, this is the way we did it, and now look at where we're at now, kind of doing it this way. It's kind of cool to kind of see that transition. Right. I don't ever want to be that real estate agent that comes up to you and be like, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years, and this is the way we've always done it. Well, you know what? Then you don't know what you're talking about, because then that's not a way to think about it, because it's always ever changing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that's where I do feel like that a lot of people, they don't truly understand what it takes to actually be an agent. Because the thing is that I've talked to so many people that they're like, I like buying and sell. I like to talk about houses. I like to do all these things. And they think it's all it is just doing things with houses. And yes, I'm sure that you can find agents that is what they do and all that aspect. But you have to the big thing that I always like to tell people, especially people get into it, is that it's not a job. It's not a career. You can do almost anything you want to make money. I like baseball, so I do things for, on the side with baseball. I do a lot of training with kids on baseball. But that's because I treat real estate like it's a lifestyle, not a career. I like all that. You love marketing. You love videoing things before you got into real estate. So whenever you got into real estate, yes, you love doing things with houses, but you love doing videoing, and you get to apply that into it. And that's what things you have to embrace, is that it becomes a lifestyle. The learning thing that we were just talking about, like, you have to want to be that person. You have to want to be a grower. If you're in real estate and you love this about, you got to learn to love marketing. You got to learn to love videoing. You got to learn to make those phone calls and love to do those things. And that's where I feel like a lot of people do get it misconstrued, is that you have to want to do so many other things.
Oh, yeah.
If you just want to come in and make money in real estate, you're not going to do it. If you just want to come in and buy and sell houses in real estate, you're not going to do it. You have to want to learn. You have to want to learn to do marketing. You have to learn how to want to do investment properties. You have to want to. And some of those things you may or may not learn. That doesn't matter. You have to want to learn. The more you want to learn, the more you're going to grasp, the more you're going to pick up on. But so many people come in, they think that it's just so black and white and so cut and dry on how you're going to do things. You're constantly growing. And I do feel like that's where the turnover rate comes over a lot in real estate, is that I feel like that people come in with an ego that you think that you're supposed to make money, that you're going to make money fast. It may take you years. It's still taking me, after everything happened, the first year was rough. The second year was a little bit better. I feel like I at least got to even ground. And this year is starting to look like it should be a lot better. I should finally start getting taken off. I've compared it to a lot of people, and the one thing to a lot of jobs, and what I've talked to a lot of people about is that if you wouldn't just stop and just create your own job in whatever business you have going right now, you wouldn't do good in real estate. Because the first year, you're probably not going to make money. You may even lose money. The second year, you may break even, hopefully. The third year, kind of the same thing. If you can do the same business and have it for 10 years, you should be doing good. I'm hoping in 10 years that I should be doing a lot better than what I am now.
Oh, yeah.
But it's taking the ego out of it and understanding there's going to be a lot of lumps. So going back to like the same thing with the phone call, you may not get that sale. You may be competing with an experienced agent, and they may want to go with them. But the aspect is that the more that you're willing to say that I don't know, that's because it's your first 6 months doing it. Well, after 3 years, you do know that answer, and now that same person that's on the other line that doesn't know that, now you're beating them.
That's right.
And that's just going and being able to take the ego out of it and be like, I am only 6 months in, and I lost to somebody that's done this for 10 years now. Eventually, that's going to be me, though.
That's
and
right.
I'm not going to let this discourage me. I'm going to keep learning, and this is what they asked me, and he doesn't want me to call him back, but I'm still going to go learn. I'm still going to go ask my broker what the answer to this was, and now I don't have to go through this again. But that's being willing to take the lumps. People are going to be mean. People aren't going to want to work with you. The reality is that you've been an agent for a year. You're not as good as the person that was 10 years in, or probably not. But again, you have to just eat that. You have to keep wanting to grow, and then eventually you're going to be that 10-year veteran agent.
That's right. That's right. How do you think they got to being a 10-year veteran? You know what I mean? I bet you, unless they came into real estate having somebody else before them that was already in real estate, I guess that was in the family or that was close knit with them. You know what I mean? Like, unless they have that, everybody else starts off that way as well too. That we all start off sucking, for lack of a better term. We all suck at the beginning. A year down, you don't suck as much. 2 years down, you're actually pretty proficient. 3 years in, then you're starting looking pretty good. But it's again, it's that consistency and that perseverance to be able to say, you know what, I don't know this, but you know what, hell, I'm going to learn every single bit that I can, every single day that I can.
And truthfully, that's probably, in my opinion, what makes me the person and agent that I am now, is that I did have an ego, and I did have somebody that brought me into it, and she did mask a lot of my flaws. And then whenever I did have to start taking it over, it's like, wow, now I see all the stuff that she actually did.
Yeah.
And it hurt my ego. So, then that's whenever you really have to break it back down. You're like, okay, I'm going to regrow into a person that's supposed to be doing these things. But it did. That was a big wake-up call whenever I realized how much of an ego I truly did have. Once that was taken away, then that's whenever you got to rebuild, and you got to eat everything and look in the mirror and start going back at it.
Brother, it's insane, and it's pretty cool to kind of see those egos flush away especially with a person that can turn humble. They can turn themselves humble and then say, okay, you know what? Maybe I wasn't I came in hot. I was coming in hot for this one.
Right.
So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and kind of reevaluate our situation here and see where it is that I need to take this, because I do like what I'm doing, but you know what? I think I need to have a different mindset.
Right.
When you're going into speaking with a client, you know, what's something that's really big that kind of stands out as far as, you know, why they come to you? Have you gotten that type of feedback as far as like why they've come to you and why they've asked you to help them out with the real estate?
In my opinion, what I kind of hope is correct is that it goes back to the fact that they know that I'm going to work hard. I'm a very honest person. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm pretty blunt about most things. I mean, in a caring way. I mean, I think that's what attracts a lot of people is I'm not really judgmental. I'm not really somebody that needs things to happen now with everything that we're talking about, me being accountable, me wanting to take lumps and learn and all those things. Mm-hmm. I don't mind slow-paced things, especially with my age. I'm dealing with a lot of other people that don't necessarily know either. I mean, now, granted, to be very transparent, the general public always thinks that they know a lot more than what they really do, you know, just like in anything. But you're usually dealing with a lot of people that don't know the ins and outs, and that's why they are working with you and they're trusting you in that aspect. And so whenever you talk about the things that I do that I don't know, but I'm willing to find out, I'll have an answer for you in 10 minutes. Just give me a couple. I mean, what's 10 minutes? You know, and some people may get upset about that, but that allows them to know that, one, the information I'm giving is correct. Mm-hmm. Two, that also takes a lot of the pressure off them because they don't have to know. You don't know. I don't know. Good question. Nobody's asked me that. Let me go find out. That brings a lot of confidence in that aspect. Yeah. And that allows, I've worked with people that I thought were super professional, not just in real estate, but in any other thing. I've worked with salesmen that were very just over the top professional. Not saying that that's not the correct way to be, but at the same time, it's very hard to be personable with them. It's hard to want to call them and ask them those hard questions or to trust them that you're actually protected, because they're not human beings. They are, you know, they are very, very over the top. And do they really have your best interest in that mind? Me, if it's Sunday and you need me to show up to do something, I'm showing up in sweatpants because I worked with my kids all day and we were doing this, but I'm still taking the time away from them because this is important to me too. Mm-hmm. Or at 7 o'clock at night, or I just got done cooking dinner, whatever that aspect is, but you're important to me as well. You know, I'm doing all the other things everybody else is, but my time's not any more important. I want to make sure that you're protected. I want to make sure. And of course, you're going to get the random phone calls at 7:30. You know, that's not important, but you know, still, I mean, that's the good thing about it, because I'd rather stop dinner with my kids and somebody know that I do truly care, and be able to go back and sit down with my kids and juggle that aspect of it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's what our job is about. Our job is really to protect our clients, make sure that they're doing the correct things that they're supposed to be doing for themselves in the aspects that they don't know about. Mm-hmm. And that's what our job is to give them the information that they don't know and be able to lead them on the path they're going on, and not do it for them, you know, but be able to teach them and show them exactly how things are and show them behind the curtain things that a lot of people don't want to show them. Yeah, and it's you know, that's one of the great things about this is I think when we have that experience, we have that knowledge, and we have that confidence, you can kind of start, I don't want to say influence, but you're like you said, you're kind of pulling the veil back, you know what I mean? And you're letting them see exactly what it's really about. Yeah. And then you see their mind like, oh, so it's not exactly what I was told on TikTok or on, you know, on YouTube or whatever it is, or my Google search wasn't exactly right on what I need to expect. And again, that's where I was telling before is like that, you know, the knowledge ensues confidence, and confidence ensues passion. And when that passion comes through, that's when the trust comes in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because then you can really convey to people like, hey, no, I see where your mind is going with that statement, but this is actually the way it goes. And that's actually probably a law from Arizona and not Arkansas, something like along those lines. But yeah, man, I think that's a huge ability to have, and when you have that grace and that ability to communicate with people, I think it's a really good transition as well too. Whenever they start that trust, I mean, it goes back to the trust. Like whenever somebody trusts you and takes in what you say, and then they really execute on what it is that you have to say, I think that to me speaks volumes. Mm-hmm. If I have the ability to talk to somebody, a client, a seller, you know, a buyer, an investor, and I tell them my knowledge and my experience, and if they take that and they execute on that to me, not only does it mean a lot to me, and it gives me a lot more confidence, but it also means a lot because I was able to, you know, help them possibly from
my experiences in the past and probably even my tribulations in the past as well too. I think it goes a long way whenever they can trust you, or they put that trust in you and take whatever you have to say. With everything you've gone through, right? In life and in your business and personal family, what is something that you would tell someone that is considering getting into real estate, specifically a real estate agent?
Do it. I mean, and that's like we talked about earlier. There's not a point in not taking risk. You gotta get over the fear of just failing. Failure isn't real. I went into the Kobe Bryant quote: "Failure, truthfully, isn't real." If you, even in real estate, like I said, if the phone call doesn't work out, they want to use somebody else. So be it. See if you can get a referral out of it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's always ways to maneuver things. There's always a way to work.
Now, when you say failure isn't real, are you meaning more like failure isn't what people consider failure? That's kind of how I'm interpreting it, is that it's not failure unless you don't do anything about it.
Kobe Bryant says that failure isn't real. He said that failure, he said, as long as you don't quit, he said failure isn't real. He said, so what, you lost? He was like, do you not get to come back? He was like, you lost. He said, go back and go work harder. Come back. But the thing is, though, is that until you quit, what'd you fail at? Like,
gotcha.
like it's not done. You didn't fail. You may have not done it right. You may have messed up. But again, like, what is the concept of failure? And that was his whole thing that he was saying, is that how can failure be real if you get to do it again? So, I mean, you didn't get this sale. Somebody wanted to use somebody else. You didn't fail. Do it again. You know what I mean? And so whenever I say that failure isn't real, we get so caught up on what if it doesn't work out? And in reality, most situations and scenarios I can think about, the real question is, well, what if it doesn't work out right now? Because, again, most things in life, you get another opportunity, at least try to do it again. Yeah. I mean, as long as you're still here, which, I mean, that's the big, and that's probably why I feel like that I have an understanding about it, you know, is I do realize, like, what the line is. And so as long as we're here, you're not failing. You may have failed that one time, if that's how you want to word it, that you failed that one time, but then you still get to go do it again. And so whenever I say, like, in real estate, that you got to get over the failure if it doesn't work out, what if it doesn't? You may have to go do something extra for money. You may have to go figure out some ways to make ends meet right now. But again, what's your mindset about it? Are you somebody that wants to learn, somebody that wants to grow? Because if you do have to do that, you're going to grow. You know, you're going to become a different person, because maybe it was your routine. Okay, going back and having to work an extra job or two, you know, and somebody making you clock in, maybe that's what you needed. Like, you don't realize really what dots are being connected and what you're needing to do until you're actually going through it. And so, again, a lot of people feel like that's failure, and then they get scared of it, and they don't want to take the risk, and they don't want to do these things. But, I mean, it's not like you're bungee jumping. You're saying, well, what if the cord breaks? Well, if the cord breaks, you're probably going to die. Yeah. And so that may be considered failure. That rope completely failed.
That's
you know
what I mean?
Right, yeah. And so, but, I mean, in every other aspect, you're not failing. You may have messed up. It's just a learning opportunity. I mean,
so bring that back into the potential real estate agent then.
Whenever you get into it, a lot of people, it's not that I feel like anybody has a fear of necessarily getting into real estate. Most people, they want you to tell them to. You know what I mean? They think they can do it. They have the confidence that they're going to be great in it, and they want you to confirm that they are, which we do. You're going to tell them that they are, because I do. I have confidence that anybody can be great into it. Then that 3-month mark is going to hit them where they're like, oh, nobody's paying me. Like, nobody's called me. But this person over here sold 15 this month, which, you know, that's whenever your pride's going to be hurt a little bit. You're going to have to understand that person that you thought you were better than, right now you're not. You may be in the future. Who knows? That person may get out next year, and you may just be by default. But again, so many people get so caught up in what the situation is right now. And so that's what you kind of have to prepare for, is that it's going to be a long path. If you want to go be a realtor, I think that everybody should want to get in real estate and work in real estate and do things in real estate. You're going to have to, I think everybody should want to be business owners in general. I think everybody should want to strive to have those goals and do more things in their life and do those extra things. No matter what you do, the path is going to be long. Yeah. And I feel like that's one thing that agents truly need to know, is that you can have literally, that's the best part about real estate. There's not a cap. Yeah. If I want to sell 50 million houses this year, boy, I can. If I can get 50 million clients, and I can sell 50 million houses. Right. But that's the thing, is that to be able to get to certain points, you're going to have to take the long road there.
Yep.
You're going to lose clients. You're going to get your feelings hurt. You're going to stay up late. You're going to do all these things. And the longer that I've been in the real estate, not only do I realize things that I didn't do correctly later on, I realize how misconstrued my mindset was over other people that I see that have success. A big thing is I like to talk to my little kids, my baseball players on this about it, because everybody's into streamers and YouTubers and all this stuff. I was watching them talk about a streamer the other day. She's been on a stream for 3 years. Well, that sounds absolutely absurd to me. Mm-hmm. But again, for whatever reason, she was on stream for 3 years. I don't want to do that. Most other people don't want to do that. She's the only one that's done that. That's truthfully what it takes, is wanting to do the things that aren't easy, that other people don't want to do, the staying up late, the only sleeping for a couple of hours, even though you've been up since 3 o'clock getting your kids to school and still going to the office even though nobody's making you. Those are the things that really do get you to the next step.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the hard things to do in this aspect, but you have to go through those lumps. You have to become that person that wants to deal with those and wants to deal with the hardest things and still get to this point. Otherwise, you're not.
Man, that's man, you hit it right on the head, because that's exactly what it is. It's going through that tough time. It's going through those extra hours. It's going that extra mile. It's having to miss out on certain events in your family's life. But not saying that it's not possible to not have to give those things up, but it's going to take you a lot longer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's almost like paying your dues. Mm-hmm. You got to pay the dues to get to that. And some people may not agree with me when it comes to this type of stuff, but I feel as though, especially in this type of industry, any industry that has to do with you being your sole way of getting paid, mm-hmm. of getting some sort of income, is paying your dues. And you have to pay those dues to kind of get to the spot where you can be a little more comfortable, where you can not have to worry about missing those events. Mm-hmm. Yes, everybody wants to get in real estate because they can make their own hours, but not everybody understands that you probably end up working more hours here than you would on a regular 9 to 5.
And another thing, and I've been through it. I've had to take obviously you got to take all the classes, you got to do all this stuff. One thing I'll say is that whenever people talk to veteran agents, we don't always paint the best picture either. I hear agents all the time, I'm not giving up money, I'm not cutting this, I'm not going to do this, I don't answer my phone after 7 o'clock, I don't do these things. They may have worked themselves to the point that you have to do it, but just me as a person, if my client needs me at 7 o'clock at night, I'm probably going to answer the phone. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have to do this big crazy thing. It's not. I don't. My kids are going to understand if I got to step away from the table for 1 second.
Yeah.
And that does go back to me caring, but there has been multiple times where you have to adjust things. You have to make sacrifices just as much as the other people. And I do hear a lot of times, and they obviously are doing fine because they're still in real estate. But you hear a lot of times, a lot of people just don't want to do what it's going to take to help the client. And I understand, but especially starting out, you're going to make more sacrifices as a new agent not having the means to do it than the people that do have the means to make those sacrifices, because they're also the ones that have the power, have the longevity in the business to be able to say, go do whatever else you want to do.
Yeah.
And that was one big thing, is that there was a lot of times where I felt, and I was working for free. But at the same time, if I wanted to get to where I wanted to be at and get the numbers and get to do what I needed to be able to do, I had to take those lumps. I had to work with those people. I had to do those things. And yes, I took a lot of the brunt of it, but I learned a whole lot through those. And that's also made me a lot better in the aspects with the good clients that I do have now.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's what it's made out of. That's what that's where the magic happens, is to be able to create that ability and create that expectation out of yourself. You know what I mean? Because then your clients do expect that out of you as well. But at the same, we are in a business where word of mouth is huge. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely huge, because that can make you or break you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If somebody says, "Oh yeah, I want to work with," or do you have anybody that you can recommend that I could work with as a realtor, somebody to help me buy or sell this house? It's either going to say, "Oh, you need to work with Zack," or "Oh, you don't need to work with Zack." You know what I mean? So it's like that right there. So why not create that opportunity for yourself and go that extra mile? I'm telling you, the extra mile that everybody is thinking is not as much as like per client is not as big as everybody thinks.
Exactly.
But if you do it that extra mile for every client. And it becomes bigger because then everybody gets used to it. And you're like, oh, he did this for me. Oh my God, he did it for you, man. He did this for me. You know what I mean? Or he did. Oh, I should. Don't you think that's great? He did this for me. So you know what I mean? Like it's creating that expectation of going that extra mile, and doing something that people don't expect from you.
I literally watched this video yesterday talking about what the extra mile actually is, and this simplified it for me a lot. What he said was, if you go to the gym and you give 110% 1 day a month. He said, you're going to look like crap. Mm-hmm. He said, if you go to the gym and you give 60% every single day, he said, you're going to look great. Mm-hmm. He said, it's not as big and crazy as what you think. Mm-hmm. He said, most of it comes down to the resilience and the consistency of it.
Yes.
Saying, I'm not going to skip today. And you go anyways. And that was a big thing because there was a point in time where I was not proud of the way that I looked. And a lot of that's where it started. I had awful days in the gym. I went in there and there'd be times that I didn't do anything at all, but I went. And if I did anything, that was better than me not doing anything. And then after 100 days of going in there and doing anything, I looked a lot different than I did whenever I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And so it's never honestly as big. And that goes back to why I keep preaching that failure isn't real. The mountain's never as big as what you actually think.
Yep.
Most of the time, it legitimately is just putting your foot in front of the other and starting.
That mountain looks a lot bigger from the bottom than it does from the top.
Once you start climbing and you start seeing how far you've came, you're like, oh, wow. And you may have a long ways to go. But the more that you can see how far you've actually made it, the easier it is just to keep going. You know, you start getting that mindset, well, I've already made it this far. I've already done this. But it's so hard for most people to just start. And then once you start, then you're going to keep going. And then after 3 or 4 weeks of doing anything at all, you're going to, no matter where you're at, you're going to be further than where you were. And all it was just starting. And it may not be easy. You may be, the first day you start the gym is going to be awful. The second day you're going to be sore. You're not going to want to go back. Third day you're going to have excuses. Then you're going to get to the week and you're going to be like, well, I've already done it for the week. And then you're going to get to the point where you start having success. And you're like, well, now I already look this way, so I don't have to go today. Then whenever you're in there for 3 to 4 years, now you start looking like how you wanted it in your head. And you're like, not even putting that much work. Like, this is actually easy. People ask me all the time. They go work out with me and they're like, we're done. I'm like, did you expect to be tired?
Yeah.
Like, I'm coming back tomorrow and the next day and the day after. Like, I don't have time to kill myself today and do this, you know? Like, but it goes back into just realizing that it's more about the consistency, more about the resilience. If you factor in more of those things, you're going to get to wherever you want to because then you're aware. It's going to be hard. It's not going to always be easy. Today is not a good day. Get what I can out of myself. Tomorrow I had a great day, you know, so let's get extra out of ourselves today. But a lot of it comes to just being self-aware and having faith that you're going to be able to get to where you want to go, whether it takes, and this is the big thing, you got to let go of the ego that it's going to happen tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It may take 10 years, and you got to be okay with it taking 10 years because it may also happen in 5 years. You got to be okay with that because it may happen in 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't know when it's going to happen, but if you don't ever start, then in 6 months, whenever you do finally start, now it's 10 years away.
Yeah.
And now it's 10 years away.
That's
but if I started 5 years ago, now it's only 5 years away. And that just goes back to just start. Just do it. I still got to convince myself to just do things. But again, if it's going to take 10 years and I start a year from now, it's still 10 years. That year doesn't mean anything. If I start today, well, by next year, now I got 9 years.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
it's starting somewhere, man. You have to put that foot forward, man. I swear, man, you should start some sort of like motivational channel or something like that.
I want to.
What do you think? Huh?
I want to. If I do, everybody just needs to subscribe and support it.
There you go, dude. I'd watch it. I'd watch it. I'd listen. I'm telling you right now, man. Dude, I gotta thank you so much for taking time out and coming in and talking about this with us. And I wanted people to know more of your story. And a lot of people do know about your story, but I think the more people know about your story, I think it would actually encourage a lot of other people. You know what I mean? So, again, I appreciate you coming in today, bro. Taking time out of your day and doing this with us, and just having some good old conversation with us, man. Because again, you got a story, and I would like for people to hear it. So, man, tell them where to find you, brother. How do we find you on socials, on phone number, all that good stuff?
I'm on Facebook. My phone number is 501-281-0067. Call the Edge office. I'm everywhere. I do baseball lessons at the ball barn. I'm very involved with kids. Come watch our baseball games. Come watch my kids. Please come help me, my kids. But yeah.
Awesome, brother. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you. Hey, if you found this motivational, if you found this inspirational, if you found this just a good listen, make sure to share this with other people that you think would find a good listen out of it as well too. If you have any questions, if you have any your thoughts on this episode today, put your comments in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you have any questions, reach out to us on social media. You can find us at Edge Realty AR on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all the good stuff. So make sure to pay attention to this episode, especially. I think you guys will get some really great nuggets. We had a lot of good conversation off of this one. And until next time, we love you so much. Thank you so much for hanging in with us and watching all the way through the end. If you've gotten this far, we appreciate you so much. And until next time, this is Yashua Suarez signing off with Edge Realty on the Edge Realty Podcast. We love you. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Edge Realty Podcast. We hope you found the insights valuable and enjoyed the discussion. If you did, we'd love for you to help us spread the word. Please share this episode with friends, family, and anyone you think might benefit from our content. Your support helps us reach more people and continue bringing you the best real estate insights. Don't forget to engage with us on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to stay updated with our latest episode, behind the scenes content, and more. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment, ask a question, or share your thoughts on what topics you'd like for us to cover on future episodes. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, which is now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Amazon Music, so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next time on the Edge Realty Podcast, where we're dedicated to helping you navigate the world of real estate with confidence and success. Until then, take care and happy house hunting.